first I want to just talk about what how to prepare for extraterrestrial contact means. We spoke about what's happening, the theme of the year. When it comes to preparing, right? We're not talking about the old paradigm views over preparing, like get an earthquake kit ready in your in your cupboard because there might be an earthquake and need to survive. It's not that kind of preparation. It's about conscious. It's not just about your consciousness. It's your emotional, physical. It's everything. There was, I forget his name now, but the guy that founded the Israeli space program, right? You can just find it. Articles are everywhere for it. If you've been following Disclosure or some of our events, you would have known that a few years ago he came out and said that Earth is being visited by beings, galactic beings, and that they don't want to. They're not ready to interact with us yet because humanity's not ready. Right? That was what he said. This is the founder of the Israeli space program. In Israel, they tried to go and talk to some of his friends that were his colleagues that were part of the space program. And instead of ridiculing him, they said, well, you know what? He's one of the smartest people we know and a very rational person. If he said this, you got to think about this seriously, right? Very interesting, the opposite of what really has been happening in the US, right? And what did he mean by that? If you drill down a little bit on what that actually could possibly mean, it's the consciousness level. Humanity is not at the level consciously in order to accept and be open to the existence of extraterrestrials for us to be able to interact with them without the select few having this warlike mentality, this aggression mentality, this us against them, divide and conquer, right? Because the majority of humanity, we all want the same thing. We want to be loved. We want to have connection. We want to have a good life. We want to have food and shelter, right? Pretty much everybody wants the same thing. But then there's a select few out there, and that's okay too, because this select few playing their role perfectly, right? Who knows who they were before they incarnated and why they're playing this role. But this select few has been coming down with a divide and conquer tactic that has made it that when it comes to contact with ETs, the MO is basically about is this a foreign adversary? Is this an invasion? How do we get more technology and weaponized space to protect ourselves? And not even the question of who are these beings, right? That question just came out like a few months ago. They finally started asking that. But it was more about statements such as this, like a congressional member said recently, it's not about who's little green men, right? It's about why they lied to us. That statement in itself is an ego-based statement, right? Yes, we were lied to, but instead of saying like, of course it's about little green men. Obviously, we know that it's not about little green men. It's about star beings and who these beings are, and they're not all little and green. But it comes down to, yes, we were lied to, and it was hidden. And now that this truth is coming out, what does this mean for humanity? So it's this and that. So moving the conversation to what are we going to do about this, and what is our connection to it? So that's what we're doing here today, is preparing your consciousness first, and then you prepare your physical body, your emotional state of being. We get to a place of inner peace. When beings come down to interact with us and we have open trade with star beings, right? If we have alternative motives or suppressed emotions or shame bodies or daddy issues from when we were a child or abandonment issues, what do you think? How do you think we're going to react to the interaction with these beings from those wounds? So what it really means when the founder of the space program Israel was really referring to, I feel, and even Paul Hellyer, the Minister of Defense who passed away a few years ago from Canada, was that unless we get to that place of kind of harmony within ourselves, we can't connect and interact with them because they know how it's going to play out in the field, right? So that's why it's important for us to have these kind of conversations. I want to show you guys a couple of events that are coming up Portal to Ascension, but what we'll do is we'll do that after the next presenter here. So I'm really excited now to continue the conversation and move forward now with Bridget Renee Holliday, who's also going to be presenting and giving us her insight on how to prepare for ET contact. Every single person that we have on this panel today, obviously I always hand select them, but I chose them specifically because I feel it's a really good range of information. And these are people that I personally hold very dear to my heart in regards to being people on the forefront of really getting people ready for this. Not just talking about these beings, who we're connected to, what these beings are, who they are, but actually providing the modalities for us to get to that place that we can prepare for ET contact. So Bridget Renee Holliday is a starseed channel, multidimensional medium. Her star lineages include Pleiadian, Sirian, Arcturian, Lyran, Andromeda, amongst others. She does beyond quantum healing sessions, hypnosis sessions. She's done one on me that literally changed my life. And I'm doing a whole entire presentation on that, on the regression a little later down in the year. So you guys will see that. So let's go ahead and bring Bridget on. Hey, Bridget.
I love you. Hi. I'm so
I love
excited.
You too. Happy New Year.
Happy blessed New Year to you, Neil. Blessed New Year to everyone. And I feel so excited about today's conversation. And these are really short bites, you guys. But Neil, everything you just said, I was like, yes, yes, yes. Everything Althea said, I was like, it's like,
yeah.
I feel like everyone is going to be hearing a lot of the same things in different ways. And that's because this is how to prepare, right? So
Exactly.
which person are you going to receive it from? You know what I mean? So,
right.
but
before you start, I would love for you, Bridget. What do you feel is the energy of this year? Maybe you could start with that. And do you want to share, because we were sharing our intentions, do you want to share your intention for this year as well?
Ooh, I'd love to. Okay. So 2024 is all about harmony. And this is what my team has been talking to me about for 2 years now. But this year, they're saying it's all about remembering our wholeness and stepping into harmony. So instead of resisting or attaching to things, bringing them back in together in the wholeness. We are not just light. We are not just shadow. We are not just all of these things. What we do when we bring it back into wholeness, though, if you are really heavily focused on your light, beautiful, thank you. If you are really heavily focused on your shadow, beautiful, thank you. But bringing them back into the wholeness, that shadow now elevates and matches the light, right? And we're not saying that part of ourselves is bad or wrong or shouldn't be there, right? So 2024 to me is all about really observing our inner reality and how it's creating our external world, but bringing every bit of ourselves back in and embracing that self-love and that harmony that we are, and that will create it in the world. And then
I love that so much.
I think that's my intention is always pretty much the same every year. I don't do the New Year's resolutions because I feel like my intention is my purpose and mission. So it is to embody as much of my high self and what I'm here to do in the world and be in the world, and to serve as big as I will allow myself to go, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
And
Thank you, Bridget.
really, yeah, that's just, it's all about love and unity for me. So
yeah, I love what you just said about harmony is both polarities. You know, I think maybe often some may feel that the harmony is bringing in the light into their life, but it's bringing the darkness and the light in harmony with each other. That's beautiful.
Because we're all of it. I mean, everything in existence is source, right? So if source has created beings that are part of a shadow construct, a control construct, that's source too, right? If source has created beings that have never known shadow, that's source too. We, however, obviously, look at the state of the world, hold both, right? So how can we bring it in? And there are people in this world that they feel like their missions and purposes is about their shadow, is about helping others with their shadow, right? So who are we to say that that's not divine guidance as well, right?
Exactly.
I have friends that do that. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. All right, Bridget. Okay, it's all yours.
Yay! All right, I love you. I'm so excited about this one. Okay, you guys, I'm just going to start off a little bit with contact is already happening. It's happening with so many people around the world. It's happening in what my soul team says, groups of like-hearted people and on an individual basis. And if you are wanting to prepare for contact, that means that maybe you want to deepen the contact you're already having. Maybe you want to have a contact experience, whatever that looks like for you. The first place to start, as Althea was so beautifully sharing and Neil, is within your own consciousness. And one of the things you'll hear a lot of us talk about is removing the separation, like really allowing ourselves to know that we are all connected, that we are all in oneness. And the reason that is because in our galactic, cosmic, and ethereal expressions, we understand ourselves in oneness. And our consciousness as galactic, cosmic, and ethereal beings is quite vast. We don't have that illusion of forgetting. We don't have that illusion of separation. And everything with everyone is transparent. So there's a thing that happens when we go within our own consciousness and start really releasing the fear programming. And that program runs deep. You've heard Althea and Neil talk about it. The program runs more than just your life here. So it's important when we do the inner work to look and clear throughout all time, all space, all dimensions, right? And it's not just a program that runs in our Earth collective. This is something that other beings in other third dimensional, fourth dimensional expressions experience within themselves too. Making contact with an entire civilization, a planet, a plane of existence, this is nothing new for our galactic family. And there's a reason why in my bio, my team has told me I'm an ascension dash contact specialist. There's no separation. The ascension that we've labeled it is exactly the same as what will happen with contact. So there is a system that in place for how, as galactic beings, as interdimensional beings, how and interdimensional, extradimensional, ultradimensional, extraterrestrial, whatever, all of them, right? I like to call them star beings. But there's a process with which we make first contact. There's a process with which we understand a civilization who is sort of not aware of their interstellar and multidimensional family, the extended family. We're not the only ones that play in the illusion of separation in that way, right? So there's a process that we do with it, and we understand because we've done this so many times. This is a huge universe. We understand that there are different scenarios that play out within a culture, within a civilization, a race, a species, a star nation, so to speak. We are one as well. That lead to the ability to have face-to-face contact. But we're not going to land on the White House lawn. And even if they do come, that probably won't be the place they go to, right? And I say they, I really mean we, because we are all connected. So we are in the very early stages of contact. And we have an interesting experience happening here with the fact that we have star seeds and walk-ins and hybrids, and I'm sure so many other types of beings who have come here to assist with this from within, right? And know that, right? Or are waking up to that understanding. So there is a different element here that is playing out that doesn't necessarily always happen in all of the scenarios leading into contact. But one of the precursory things that has to happen is that civilization has to cross through the fear and through the separation to be able to understand and receive without having fractured psyche, without having all of these different things that can happen. We also have to know ourselves. We have to know who we are, know our own energy, understand what is us as humans on Earth, and be able to recognize what isn't. A lot of our galactic family has very vast consciousness, meaning when we come into contact with them, it is very normal for us as humans on Earth to lose our identity, to lose our persona for a period, a moment in time, not a very long one usually. But because their consciousness is so much more vast than ours, it's like we experience ourselves. If you've ever experienced this in meditation, it's similar to the I am or the isness. We experience ourselves in such a degree of oneness during that moment that our persona, our personality, our ego personality falls away, just dissipates instantly. And for some people who are still playing in the fear zone, what that can present as is they are taking me over. And that's not what happens. What happens is a blending of frequency, a blending of consciousness. So we become literally oneness in that moment. How we experience it is we experience ourselves floating in the presence of everything and nothing that we are, our infinite nature. And we experience them in theirs. And it's this beautiful blending that happens. But if we are not aware of these kinds of things and we meet a being with this vast consciousness and we have that happen, humans are we're programmed to create stories about everything. And generally the story is I was afraid. I was afraid I was losing myself. I was afraid they were taking me over. It felt invasive. And those stories come from fear, right? So not if you have had that experience, I am not judging you when I say this. I'm just explaining this so that we can move beyond it, so that we can understand. Now, there's also a really big push by our galactic family, by my galactic family in particular with me, to release the judgment of ourselves, judgment of one another, judgment of how things look. Judging someone, creating opinions about someone based on how they appear is a partial truth, right? If even a truth. What they always encourage us is to sense, feel, know, right? We can see, right? But we are designed to do more than just the physical senses. This is a soul sense. The all of the clairs, the psychic ability, all of these things, these are part of our soul. Everyone has it. Whether you have placed your focus and attention on it and started to cultivate it, that's a different story, right? But you can do that at any time. Every single one of us can. So they recommend going beyond just physical sight based on how who we believe someone is. We create a lot of judgment. I mean, look at humanity right now, right? It's a perfect example. We are fighting over things such as religion, such as land, such as, sacred sites. We're fighting because we have different hues of skin color and we have different cultures. Imagine a universe filled with beings who look so different, some of them, than humans on Earth that we can barely perceive them. And now imagine us moving out into our interstellar ability and our ability to communicate with intergalactic beings and extraterrestrials and experiencing those beings. It won't be healthy, right? If we're in this, it won't be healthy for us. It definitely won't be healthy for anyone else, right? If we come out like in this drive to defend and conquer, there are plenty of beings out there who have had that experience, right? And they'll understand where we are. Doesn't mean they'll want to be a part of it, right? So and many, many, many of our galactic family, their technology is so far advanced compared to ours, even probably the things that our government has created based on some of those. So, I'm just going to tell a story to kind of pull this home. I was communicating with my galactic family and my soul team collective. It's all connected. Just everybody, just remember, they're all connected. It's not an us them. We are connected. And I was asking them about different beings. And I have been traveling a lot via consciousness, which is similar to astral projection. And I was really asking about, like, how do we move through the preconceived notions based on appearance and things like that? And they said, let's show you. And I was like, okay. And so I closed my eyes so I could get that visual image that they were bringing in for me, which happens in your mind's eye, that place where you review your memories. And they started showing me this being. And this being, in Earth terms, would have been fairly creepy looking. And I was not sure, right? I don't hold a lot of fear with all of this. I think that sort of went by the wayside when I had my initial contact experiences for the most part, but I do still find programming within my consciousness. And this being had this huge round head, very spindly body. But what was in, which is fairly normal for a lot of different types of beings, But what was interesting is they had in this big, huge round head on this tiny little body, they had a smile that went from like cheek to cheek, no lips, and teeth that interlocked, right? Pointed teeth that interlocked. And I was like, oh, when I saw it, it wasn't like a, oh my gosh, this guy is so creepy. It was like a, oh, that's not what I expected, right? And they said, exactly. And I went, yes, that's a judgment. Even in the oh, there's a judgment, right? And I was like, okay. And then they said, now feel. And when I sensed into it, I felt love, really beautiful love. I felt this high, fine frequency. I felt unity. I felt all kinds of beautiful things. And I was like, oh, they're filled with light. I felt their light quotient was very high, right? And I was like, oh, they're filled with light. And they said, and you have practice in this. You have practice in seeing beings and understanding not to run with any of the preconceived notions that would pop into your mind. Most of humanity doesn't. And for everyone to be connected, we need to understand that the way someone looks is almost inconsequential. What matters is how they feel, because how they feel is who they are. So, my suggestion to anyone who's wanting to make contact is to really get to know your own energy fields, really work on your extra ability to sense that's those superpowers. And it doesn't take much these days to do that. It's all about being in the heart space with any of this. Being in the heart space, having an open mind and an open heart, right? And a very clear intention. When you want to connect with anyone that is galactic, cosmic, ethereal, that's all it is. And remember that we are all in oneness. Those beings who are coming to contact you, they share a soul stream with you. So they're connected via soul. You guys are the same. You're of the same source spark, the same essence, right? So it's this beautiful remembering that this is another version of me. This is a version of my soul, right? And we get to love and accept that. We get to expand our own love for ourselves through our connection with them. And if we're beating ourselves up, if we have messy mental fields, if we have messy emotional fields, that's okay. But it's probably going to mean that your contact will come in a different way, like through meditation, through journeying, things like that. Physical contact, unless it's prearranged to really bring about a deep awakening, and many other things, 'cause there's many reasons why we can have the in-person physical contact. Um, it doesn't generally happen on the regular unless that person is going through sort of a what we would call like a training program with themselves. um, like Whitley Strieber is perfect example of that. Amazing, bringing this into the world when it was still so ridiculed and so programmed, and everyone was still so asleep to it. So his journey over time, if you listen to him, his journey over time, it has gone from terror and fear and horror and horrific experiences to love and understanding and compassion and a deep knowingness, right? Of the support. And I want to bring in something else related to this. Often when we connect with our star family, our galactic family, they reflect us back to us. We do that with each other all the time, but they will reflect our personality back to us to a degree. They will reflect, it's like we are all just mirrors of one another, right? We are all sharing soul, sharing source light and God light, great spirit light, whatever you want to call it, right? And when we meet them, because there is no pretense of persona with them, they can have a personality, but they don't have the pretense. They don't wear the masks. What will generally happen is they will reflect us. So if you're a little sassy, a little spicy, like I can be sometimes, they'll reflect that sense of humor back to you. If you're really introverted and quiet, they'll reflect that back to you. And it's not that they are manipulating anything. That's just how it works, right? So if we're holding a bunch of fear and a bunch of trauma, and we go into fear in an experience with them, and it goes wild, there's probably a reason that it happens first to help us clear it, but also to show us our mental field and our emotional fields. But what will happen in those situations is generally they meet that fear with resistance, right? Because, well, first, especially if it's physical, it can be dangerous for them because they're not generally as strong as we are. Not always, but second, because that energy is so loud to them, right? So they'll meet it with resistance. So you might find yourself immobilized. You might find whatever, and that's also a safety factor for us as well, because if we're unpredictable sometimes, right? So if we are really full of a lot of fear, we could do something that is dangerous for ourselves too, right? There's also technology that has been designed as a kindness for us, that is like a cover image that happens when we meet them. Doesn't happen all the time. Generally, it will happen with the beings that look very different from us, but it can still happen to a degree with beings who are also humanoid, and we mirror them. We look very similar to them. For example, the Syrians, who are humanoid, their face, when we see them through the cover image, will have a lot more plumpness to it than it truly does. It'll look more like us. They will be smiling really big with teeth, right? Pleiadians will have the same sort of thing, smiling really big with teeth. Most of our galactic family doesn't do that as much, but they also don't emote as much with their faces because they're telepathic. So what they're feeling, who they are, all of these things are revealed in their energy essence, their frequencies, right? That they can easily read from with one another, right? So the Syrians, they look a bit emaciated. They look sort of like elves, and with the high cheekbones and the longer face, and everybody's a little bit different. So it's not just across the board what I'm saying, but they definitely have more sunken features. But what we see, until we expand our consciousness far enough to be able to see beyond that technology, is we see the more plump face version of them, the more sparkly white teeth version of them, the more emotive on their energy, and their feelings are emoting through in facial expressions. Another prime example as to why it's important for us to really sense and feel and know who someone is, because a lot of them, they don't have facial expressions at all, or very minimal, right? Especially those beings that don't have this similar humanoid form as we do. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything else the team wants to bring through for you guys. Neil, I don't know what time I started, so just pop in and let me know when it's time. But I just I just want to relay to everyone that we already know our galactic family from a higher perspective. This is not someone that's new to us. The entire creation of this universe is not something new to us. So as we begin to heal our trauma, clear our fears, really hold the intention to expand our consciousness, this information comes back in so fast. It comes back in with lightning speed. You'll get downloads, you'll have visions, whatever way you receive, you will start accessing this information. And it's designed to be that way during this lifetime that we're all in right now. This is not a short journey. There's a lot of people that are saying, everything's going to be done in 2 years. That's not the probabilities that I see, at least in the timelines that I see. But we do have major impact events happening this year, 2024, 2026, 2028. Now, the 2026 year sometimes pushes to 2027, based on our collective probabilities. And my team's being kind of hush hush about what the exact events are. But the feeling I get with them is things will happen to really bring us together, but bringing us together through experiences that help us realize there has to be a better way, right? There's got to be some other way to do this, right? But it brings us together. So the potential for this depends on each individual, each and every human on the planet, like how it's going to play out, right? 2024 definitely feels like an event that kind of shakes the foundation, which brings us to that brink of fear to where we're like, okay, enough, right? Um, but it can go multiple ways. It doesn't have to be a human crack me open experience to where everything falls away. If we're all choosing, or as many of us as sees this, chooses a path that gives us the same outcome, then those moments that are sort of we've scheduled in for ourselves aren't necessary. And this is personal, this is true for our personal lives as well, right? So if we are designing something that will bring us into unity, and our current trajectory is going to something that's going to be amazing after, but feel like it has a lot of intensity during, if we all of us that sense that, if we can all just focus on our own journey and bringing that into the world, that same um, set of frequencies, then that experience is transformed, right? It's transformed through our intentional, conscious decision to bring more of that unity into our lives, or more of that love, less of the judgment, whatever it is. Each moment we do that, it's like we're deflating energy from that collective experience. Now, does that mean that just because you go and start doing that, that the collective experience will happen? No, right? We don't know. We don't know exactly when it's going to happen and when it isn't most of the time these days, right? Because we don't know how many of us are out there awakened. Some of us can feel the light quotient, we can feel the consciousness expanding, we can feel all of those things, but we don't know what that probability marker is. But the point of all of this is not to do it to circumvent something that someone else may want for themselves, to expand their consciousness and have awakenings and all of those things through. The purpose of me sharing this is bringing that into our own experience, just because we know it's an outcome that we desire to have. Our heart desires unity. Our heart desires a new earth that is all of the beauty and harmony and love and oneness. The fastest way to bring that in and bring contact in, because that's what it is to really go within ourselves and create that and generate that within ourselves. And then it will be rippling out into the world. Making contact happens when we have an open heart and an open mind, when we are clearer, right? So it's all about bringing that frequency of ourselves into alignment with the beings that we're wanting to have contact with, right? So that inner journey of frequency matching, or bringing in those frequency chords, so to speak, CHORDS, those symphonies of frequency, which is what unity is, right? Bringing more of that in through our own expression in the world and within our mind and our emotions, having that harmony, that deep harmony that we are, letting everything else that is distortion, that is adopted or created out of not seeing as full of a picture as we do right now, letting all that go, that all leads to a beautiful space for our galactic family to come in and have contact with us, right? So it all leads to this moment of we are ready. We are ready for contact. Everyone thinks like the Pleiadians are going to come, currently the Sasani, right? Like all of these things, they're going to come, they're going to help us with all of these things. And yes, that will definitely happen. But they're not going to be able to come if it's dangerous for us and dangerous for them, right? So it is truly up to us to be prepared as individuals and to work with one another. Look at pictures of strange things to help you get past the fear of how something looks. Stare at it until you can look at it through the beauty that it really is. So you can see the uniqueness, the special moment of its creation and how that creation now moves in the world and what they do. The Really, it works with insects. It's like a really good way to work, at least for me it was. But I wasn't afraid of things like snakes and other animals, and I wasn't really afraid of insects. I just thought they were super strange looking, right? Um, Look at the micro of things. Look at ants, look at wasps, look at spiders, look at all those things. If you have a fear of an insect in the 3D world, start deep diving in it. Start looking at it until you can see the unique beauty in it, till you can see your connection to it. That's when you know that you have released that fear. When you look at something and you feel that deep unity, love, that's when you know you're ready for whatever that is. And a little teaser that I'm sure you guys have all heard, there are avatars on Earth for so many different races and species. Um, we have, insectoids, we have wasp-like beings. I just had a beautiful experience with some a couple months ago that were ethereal, and they're giant compared to what our wasps are, right? So we have all types of avatars here, so to speak, not just these human bodies, but we have all types of avatars within our beautiful, diverse collective that if we feel a fear and we face that fear and we find the beauty and we acknowledge that deep connection, that's another element of collective programming and in programming in some way that connects us to fear that we've just released, right? So each time we do that with whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is on the planet. If you can face it, find the beauty and the love, feel that connection, that's what's important, right? So, and that's what leads us to really having a diverse, universal understanding of who we are on Earth in connection to our galactic families, right? Galactic, cosmic, and ethereal, right? Because not everyone has a physical body, but they can still see each other and hang out together. So that's a whole other presentation, I think. But it's just really important to remember that it all starts with us and they're waiting. So if you start meditating with the intention of connecting to your galactic family, they will meet you. They will be there for you. They're already watching you. They're already observing your human life because they get information. And on a higher level, we're already communicating with them. It's just most people haven't become fully conscious of that yet. We have a multidimensional layering to our human experience that lots of us are remembering and waking up to, and then there are some that still haven't, right? And there's no right or wrong with how it happens. Everything happens in divine timing. But the more you hold the intention and the declaration of knowing these things, understanding your contact that is already happening in your more higher dimensional aspects of self, so to speak, your multidimensionality, the more you will have that remembering pop in. But your high self is not going to allow that if you're filled with fear, if you're, filled with judgment and all of those things, because you can have it can have the reverse effect for you than what contact really does spur within our remembrance and our remembrance of who we are. That's what it's designed for, right? But it can have the opposite effect for you, to where you go, it's almost like you contract, right? And sometimes that's a purpose too. But open your heart, open your mind, get clear, get really clear, and bring it all into wholeness. We're not leaving our third dimensional aspect behind to have connection with beings that are 5D and above, right? We're not doing that. We're bringing it all into wholeness and bringing all of ourself into this sovereign relationship. Like, I am sovereign in myself. I hold myself accountable for all of the things that I am doing in this world. They are the same. We meet in the middle and we don't lose ourselves, right? We don't give our power away to them. We don't start to worship them as gods just because they can do godlike things that we haven't figured out within ourselves yet. And they don't want that. We've already done that in humanity's history, and it didn't work out well for anyone. We don't want that again. What we want is that equal meeting in the center. There, every race and species has their own unique thing, series of things that they bring into this universal expression. Humans on Earth are no different. We have that. We have our own unique elements and aspects that we bring in, right? So they want to share in that with us, and they want to share theirs with us, right? So they want the exchange, but the sovereign exchange, the understanding ourselves in oneness exchange, right? That will best serve everybody. So, yeah, I love this. I love this conversation. I love that you're all listening, whether you're here live or in the replay. Put in the comments, like, what are you practicing in your journey? What are your sacred practices that will help you step further into contact and connection with our galactic, cosmic, and ethereal families? Put that in the chat. Talk with each other, connect with each other, share your experiences. Join us in Ascension Catalysts, which is the name of our community. Join us in Portal to Ascension. Conscious Awakening Network. There's so many of us out here that have these amazing communities for all of us to grow and expand and share what is really resonating with us, how we're having these deep contacting and communication experiences, because not all contact is physical. A lot of times it's channeling, right? So how can we come together in community? That's the next step for most of us, is connecting with that soul family, coming in, sharing our experiences, expanding our consciousness together, sharing everything, right? And allowing ourselves to be in our own sovereign journey while we're really remembering our oneness with other humans. And that always plays into, at least in our community, that and Neil's, that always plays into how we can connect easier, how we can have contact experiences, how we can develop relationships with our galactic, cosmic, and ethereal families, right? And one another, supporting each other, uplifting each other, knowing that we're not alone, that loneliness we've been feeling is such a lie. We don't have to live in it. There's so many of us that are activated, open, awakened, having contact experiences, having channeling, daily channeling experiences with our galactic family. And they're all here waiting to be connected, right? You're waiting. If you don't have a community already, you probably feel exactly what I'm talking about, right? So let's bring ourselves together and do this, because that's what we're here for, right? And collaborate on how we can be of service to make it easier for the world to shift in whatever way is aligned for them in that moment. We're not forcing anyone to do anything, right? But we are holding space for that. We are forging pathways for others to follow that makes direct contact easier, that makes understanding who we are at the core essence of our being easier for someone, right? So, yeah, as you guys can probably tell, I'm really passionate about all of this, but I just feel like we have it's such a small step in the grand picture of everything that we're going through as a collective. What this inner work is for us right now is such a small step in the larger scheme of what we've labeled the ascension, right? So it's just about looking at these things that for some people might hold a lot of contrast and intensity, right? Depending on what kind of trauma you have, right? But it's just about looking at these for the truth of what they are. We're not reliving our trauma when we go in to clear so that we can have contact with someone that is really clear already. We're looking at it for the truth of what it gifted us. Even the most intense experience in my life, which I've had plenty, um, those gifted me something so valuable, wisdom, even if it was just wisdom of knowing something about myself on a very deep level, or being able to see through certain, circumstances into the truth of why I had placed myself in them. Whatever it is, it gives us something. And so that's when the forgiveness and the love and the self-love and the worthiness and all of these things that you hear people talk about, this isn't for most people just a, skip down the road kind of experience, ascension. For some people it is. But for most of us, it's a deep dive into the truth of what have I adopted and collected that no longer serves me in the collective? And then deciding what we want to do with it, right? But it's always about love. It's always about bringing everything back into the wholeness, including those other people that we've said are other than and less than and bad and whatever. It's all, even if they are doing heinous things, if we have that frequency in us, then we are perpetuating that frequency in the global world, in the world, right? So even even for those beings, and this may be something that you step further into, but even for those beings that people talk about a lot, there are beings that play roles with us in the control constructs on Earth, right? They do add intensity and contrast. Lots of people have experienced them. We're not a vibrational match for them most of the time. Um, Most of the time, as we begin to clear our stuff out and bring it into that wholeness, set down what we've adopted and created that no longer serves, we're invisible to beings that are not a frequency match or harmonious with us. So I think it's just really important. It just feels really important to look at all the angles. Everything's connected, right? Our galactic family is connected to paranormal experiences, is connected to us, is connected to portals, and our planet being a portal planet is connected to all of these other worlds and expressions with all of these other beings. We are in oneness. There is a 0 point, a unity field. We're having an expression from it. This is a holographic experience. All of these things are true, but how do you want to perceive them? And that clear perception of them is what makes it easier to communicate and connect with our galactic family. When we have too many things in our perception lenses that cloud the lenses, then we're seeing through a cloudy, I mean, you know what cloudy glasses look like, or cloudy sunglasses, dirty, whatever, right? We're seeing through it. We're seeing through that. So everything we relay, everything we perceive within our mind, all the stories we build are through that. That's got to go. We've got to let it go, right? To have this beautiful connection that we all so deeply desire. So, and that always starts within us. If I'm over, let me know. I don't know if I am.
You are over, but we're flowing with it today, So do you want to just spend maybe a couple more minutes just closing it out?
Thank you. I had that feeling. I was like, I think I might be over. Um, yeah, I just want to say, do your inner work. Remember to play. One of the things that I didn't bring up so much, because I always bring it up in all the other presentations, is playing and joy are highly, highly impactful for connection and contact, channeling even. So get in that play state as often as possible. That's not just to help you connect with them, it's to help you feel good within your own self, right? And that raises our vibration. If you're not in a space to play and you force yourself to play, it might work, right? Or it might be a calling to do a little bit of inner work and figure out, what am I experiencing right now, right? So I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. And you are so loved. You are so loved. We are all so deeply grateful for you. And the way I see us is that we are all masters, just remembering that we are masters. So there's not, if you are brand new on your journey or you've been doing this for decades and decades, there's no real difference between us, guys. Seriously. We all come in with these amazing specializations and masteries, and we all have a particular piece of this puzzle. You've come here for a reason. You have purpose, you're important, right? And this is a symphony on a mass scale that we're doing together. So thank you for part of the Portal to Ascension community. I invite you into Ascension Catalysts to come and join our community and collaborate and co-create with us. And yeah, check out BridgetReneeHolliday.com. I am sort of in the process of renovating my website a little bit, one page at a time. So it's not very cute right now, but you can see the services that I offer. And I do have some new services that I'm really excited about, some new quantum hypnosis services that I'll be launching officially tomorrow, the first of many. So thank you, Neil. I love you, brother. You
Love
are
you.
such a beautiful soul. You guys, Neil is exactly how he is on here. Like some people will ask, but he is. He's amazing.
Thank you,
You'll love
Bridget.
him. If you ever
Everything you
meet him.
said was so on point. I mean, we can honestly just have another 30-minute conversation about everything you shared. But I just want to just like share a couple of key points. Play and joy. That's literally my theme this year. I shared in the beginning that I honestly take life too seriously sometimes. I take myself too seriously, and it's not been serving me. And ultimately, I do this work to create a life where we can have joy and be enjoyed, right? So why wait for that opportunity when we have so many opportunities around us every moment to really embrace that, right? And you said make the unconscious conscious. Basically, is like summarizing a lot of what you said. And I also loved the the thing that we've had a conversation about a few times. Maybe you can just have a 1 minute talk about it some more. Was the galactic speciesism? Getting over. I really particularly love connecting with you because we have this conversation a lot about beings that don't look like us, and we might start by having interaction with beings that do look like us. But there's such a wide variety of experiences out there, and it's almost like Earth is a kind of like a test to see if that will happen. And I feel we're trying to, and there's a lot of like friction between it all. But ultimately, when we realize that we're all interconnected, we know this, that we're all interconnected, and we realize that we all basically want the same things. That I feel is the foundational element for us to get over our differences, whether it comes to color and all that, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a huge shift in the world, and can have a bit of like upheaval attached to it, like that because so many people pull that into their identity, right? And they don't even recognize that it's like we receive programming in almost every country about this, right? And it's ancestral too. It's not just like our generation, right? So this is some deep rooted stuff sometimes, right? And imagine if it's happening here, it's probably happening in other places too, right? So we've experienced it on multiple levels and layers. And we come here. One of the things my team always talks about is part of what we do here is we express in those frequencies, right? Those concepts that have happened in other places, and we shift how we're able to perceive it, like all the different angles, so to speak, right? So when we can really do that within our own consciousness, we're diffusing that within our collective, right? And that will help with the galactic. There's not a part of this human experience that isn't connected to our to making contact or ascension and contact. It's like it's a progression of consciousness, right?
Right, exactly. Beautiful, Bridget. Do you want to share really quick where people can find out more about you? You also have a show. I think you're still doing your podcast show as well. Keep forgetting the name of the platform.
So Clubhouse, we've kind of moved over to a private community from that, but you can still find us on Clubhouse in Awaken Ascending. But most of what we're doing now is in Ascension Catalyst. It's actually .org. I think I put .com. No, it's .com. Never mind. I'm thinking of Portal to Ascension. I'm getting excited. But yeah, ascensioncatalyst.com. Sorry, you can find us there and come and connect with us. And yeah, I do have several things that I'm doing, but that's my main focus right now is that you, of course, here in Portal to Ascension and Conscious Awakening Network with Sheila Seppi, who you guys love each other. So
Yeah. Bridget, thank you so much. I really love and appreciate you. I wanted to start the year with you being a part of this. You mean that much to me. All the insight that you have, the regression that you gave me has been really life-changing. And everything that you said today is just on point with where I'm feeling as well. So thank you for everything.
Thank you, Neil. I love you. Thank you
Love you.
for all these beautiful opportunities to share in the world too.
See you at the Starvings conference in a couple of weeks.
I am so excited.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
It's going to be
Talk to
epic, you
soon.
guys. Love you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.